Hi there, thank you so much for being interested in my work. In this video, I share with you my techniques and tips on how I create and play with light, starting from outline, the underdrawing, the rich colour stroke detail stage. Be sure to watch it right through till the end because here and there I'll be slowing things down in real time so you can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. Now for the outline stage, I'm using a quarter grid. This is the reference image I'll be using. So finding the big shapes to start with, you've got those squares to help you out. So you can use the negative space, that's the space around the object, to find the area as well. Use shapes, so like with the swan's head there, I've used circles first and then make the shape of the head then. So you just find shapes rather than naming things. That'll keep you centered and keep you less stressed out with being overwhelmed by drawing the outline. The more you can just focus on your heart, let it come from there rather than having tunnel vision trying to draw every detail. So just see it as your interpretation. You're finding the areas by comparing one shape with the other, and once you're happy with that, you just tighten things up then. And it's a case of just being loose and enjoying the freedom of just moving these shapes around. Always try and keep the reference image small enough so I can see the whole image. That way you don't get a distorted view then, you can see all the elements. Here's the primary colours I'll be using for the underdrawing. Using a brown and burnt sienna there, black and white, so keeping it really simple. I tend to do that, so it's just a way of helping you just to relax and don't get too involved with all the colours to start with. I had some greys as well there. I realised I needed a few greys. And then just get these colours roughly in, so I'm not really concerned about getting the value correct, the temperature, the chroma. All it is getting the shapes right. So this underdrawing is just getting everything in place, getting all the shapes in the correct area, and getting a general feel for the energy and the connection to each swan as well. So again, bringing the reference image into my heart so you feel as though you can sense more then. The more you can connect with sending that love energy to the reference image, the more it comes back. It's ever so strange, but it's true what happens. And then you'll find that these marks just happen then. If you go into your head too much and have tunnel vision, it'll get too overwhelmed for you, all the details and everything. So just keeping chilled in your heart and just let it flow. It does take practice, but it does happen after a while. But you can see how I'm just keeping the basic colours, just putting them together and then just enjoying the play of them. Using greys and whites, varying the pressure of the white so it's firmer pressure when it's lighter, less pressure when it's mid-tone, and then just glaze over that with either a grey or a colour. So I'm using basic colours, the primaries, the blue, red, which is the burnt sienna, and yellow ochre, just to get a basic idea of form. Using different tones of grey as well, so just use whatever greys you've got in your kit, but I'd recommend getting a Carbothello set of 60 because they have some amazing greys and they really come in handy. Now I'm running through this quite quickly on the underdrawing because I'm going to spend more time showing you little bits of real time to slow it down to show you how I generate or create the light, the chroma and the different tones and temperatures and things. But for this it's just a case of just being loose and getting a general feel of the form by using these basic colours. And it's always handy because it acts as a vehicle then. So when you put the rich colours on top, they're more smoother and they're not so grainy. So generally what I'm doing here is putting different greys, putting a bit of brown in to make it darker with like a 708 grey, and changing it up here and there with the white tint in it. But like I say, it's not an accurate representation at the moment. It's just a feeling I'm putting down. Now I'm putting a little bit of background in here because it'll help me then with getting the actual light feathers in here. So I needed to get a little bit of that in. So again, light pressure where it's mid-tone, more pressure where it's highlighted, and it's a good idea with the outline stage to get as accurate as you can as well, because it does help. Each stage helps the next stage, but with this stage you move things around because sometimes the outline can seem a bit strange. So only when you start adding that little bit of light and shade, which is form, which creates form, that things need to be moved. So I do tend to move things if I need to, because when you start adding this little bits of shadow and light, it changes the feel of what you thought the outline was. It's hard to put in words really. But just enjoy the play of colours. I love this stage because you can be really loose and you're not focusing on details at all. It's all about getting the shapes in the right place. And again, just see it as shapes. Don't see it as feathers or it'll freeze you. It'll sort of overwhelm you. And getting these shapes in now, when you start putting the details in the next stage, it's so much easier because everything's in place. You've done all the hard work now by just feeling your way through, and it does pay off really. But try and be as accurate as you can, but don't try and get every little detail the same. Just be your interpretation and be connected to the energy and the feeling of oneness with the subject really, rather than trying to make it detailed to start with. If you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. But if you do find it's getting a little bit too overwhelming, just have plenty of breaks and just keep coming back to it with a fresh feeling then. Just have a minute quiet and center yourself in your heart. Now for the water here, I'm just using a dark grey, a light grey and white to start with, just to get the basic sort of feel for where the positions these ripples are. Again, get big shapes in, so you just try and find shapes that stand out, put those in first and then do the areas in the middle of it. So you find key areas, put those in and then bring the others into play. Adding it very lightly as well, not putting too much pressure on because I don't want to overload the tooth of the paper, because you want to have that for when you put the rich colours in. So everything on this underdrawing is done very, very lightly, hardly any pressure really. Just light pressure when it's lighter and then less pressure when it's not so light, but don't overdo the pigment. But once you've got these little marks in, then you're just glazing over them with the yellow ochre, the burnt sienna, and maybe some blue in some areas. But here I've used a bit of a dark grey again, just finding different greys. I mean, I started off showing you those few pencils, but things change. You just, as you go along, you think, oh, I'll just do that and use that pencil. But just try and keep it as simple as you can. Now for the rich colours, so I'm just going to create the rich colours straight away with this, but first of all doing a little bit of an under sort of drawing first, but then straight on after doing the rich colours. So just a case of really getting that light in there, again just getting that pigment down, playing about with different greys and just smoothing it in with your finger to start with. It's just a matter of getting that sort of pigment down. Then the most important thing is glazing then with the lemon yellow, blue and red, so it's the primaries, and this is what creates the magic, if you like, that sort of feeling of energy. It's the glazing over the basic drawings that seems to just bring it all to life, because you get real subtleties then and colour harmonies using those primaries. Now I use a different sort of blue in this bottom area here. It's more of a, it's called King's blue, but it's more turquoisey, and to add that little bit of turquoisiness, just added that little bit of lemon yellow with it. For the swans, these are the Pastel pencils I'll be using, the Conti Paris swans. the car and dash and the greys of the car and dash. Now I use a Faber-Castell white as well for the fresh areas. So adding that fresh white and then glazing over then with the lemon yellow and burnt sienna, and just feeling your way through, just adding that little bit more pigment and richness to it, and mixing the greys with the colour as well. So it's just a case of just trying what greys you've got and then mixing your own grey by using blue, burnt sienna, so you can have a warmer grey with more burnt sienna or cooler grey with more blue, so you can get them real subtleties then. Now this swan is in shadow, but it's got reflected light from the other swan. It's quite fascinating to do. Again, using that Faber-Castell with the brighter areas, but then I'm using a grey-white from the Carbothello range, just so it actually a bit more of a subtler white when you're blending in. So you have to keep experimenting with these different greys to see what happens and see what effects you get. But it's just a case of just playing and enjoying the freedom of moving these around. But as my interpretation, it's not exactly the same as a reference. It's close to it, but it's all about the feeling, really, getting that feeling right. For the beak, I'm using cold red there with yellow ochre, creating nice vivid orange, and then using brown, burnt sienna and a bit of a cold red again. So you have to keep mixing it up, and then just using a earbud just to soften it, and then a bit of blue to create purple. Also use black in this as well, just to create that depth. And it's a case of just playing and keep working on it until it starts to feel right. Just like to take this opportunity to thank all my patrons for all their wonderful support every month. I can't thank you enough. It means the world to me. If you're considering joining me on Patreon and would like the benefit of longer, slower and more in-depth videos, please check out the link in the description below. Now, most of my videos I put on now are all in real-time audio, real-time video, so that's all the footage, so you can see how I do it step by step, and I'm talking you through each stroke of the pencil, so you get a real flavour to what I do and how I create it. So if that interests you, please check out the link in the description below after you've watched this video. Adding that little bit of lemon yellow as well creates that chroma, it adds that little bit of glow. So whatever colour you're using, just adding that tiny little bit of lemon yellow just makes all the difference. And what I'm doing here is using that Faber-Castell white, using a colour shaper there as well, just trying it out around the edge of the swan. This area I sort of blocked in the colours to start with, getting that rich colour down, and just playing really with the brown, different dark greys, but it tended not to be dark enough, so sometimes you have to use black with pastel. So I mixed a bit of black with that, because that Carbothello pastel black is very, very sort of subtle. It's like a natural shadow, so it works pretty well. To create that sort of turquoisey blue, I put the blue down, then added the lemon yellow to it to change it up. So that's another thing I do, is just to change colours, because you can't find the correct colours in your box. You're lucky if you find something exactly what you're wanting. So you've just got to get used to mixing these, and that's where all the subtleties and all the harmonies sort of come together, really, by just adding those glazes over the top. It just makes all the difference. Now, you squint your eyes to see the value, and open your eyes to see the colour, because it's very subtle in these areas. It's really a lot of reflected light, and it's a really mysterious and magical sort of feel to it. So I try to keep everything nice and soft by using the grey whites instead of the white to lighten things up. This area is quite interesting again because it's in shadow, but there's reflected lights in there. So I'm using soft warm grey, and then using different blues on the top of that, just to get that sort of feeling. You've got to experiment really what you've got in your kit, and then lighter greys just to get that sort of feeling, with a bit of yellow ochre in there as well. Now, using Payne's Grey here, which is a 770 pencil from the Carbotella range, and then using the Caran d'Ache yellow ochre, cobalt blue on top of that, just mixing all these different shades together just to create that sort of feeling of shimmering. And it's really fascinating to do this was, adding that light colour and then adding those little soft greys with it and glazing with the burnt sienna and lemon yellow, which creates a gold. So you're putting that down, then desaturating it with the greys. If you're interested to know how I create shadows using complementary colours, I have got this free class for you. The link is in the description below. So if that interests you, please check it out after you've watched the video. Now this area, I put suggestion here and there and create my own slant on it. It's not exactly the same as the reference image, but I'm trying to create a feeling rather than trying to focus on every detail. So I'm just playing with it, moving things around, and still it starts to get that sort of feeling I'm wanting. And there's quite a lot to cover in this video, so here's the water and how I created that. Similar to what I did in the Swan, really. It's getting those dark areas in first, then the light areas, and then you've got a gauge then to the colours in between. So using the Caran d'Ache greys, the light greys, then just glazing over then with blues, burnt sienna again, just to create those subtleties, and then keep going over. These are the greys I've used from the Caran d'Ache range. They're really rich in sort of pigment, and you don't have to put too much pressure on to get the pigment on there, so you're not really filling in the tooth that much. So that's what makes them really special, really. You've got the vibrancy even when you put a light pressure on. So what I'm doing is selecting certain areas where the highlights is. I'm just checking on my vertical plane how it lines up with the swan or swans. I always like to imagine the element of the water, the feeling of it, the coolness, the reflections, the atmosphere. Anything you can connect to will help you to actually express it, because there's a lot of details here, so I don't really paint the details. I'm just feeling my way. Again, I'm connected to my heart, let that image come into me, but then I'm feeling the elements and then trying to sort of portray that. I'm trying to just let it flow through me, really, and just feel my way and just let those colours just happen and the subtleties. If you enjoyed this video, why not give it a like and share it with your friends? It means so much to me, as this would help the channel to grow. Now the final details on this area here, just add in those little flecks into the background there, just to create the sort of feather look, because you don't want it to look like a cutout, the sharp edges. So you've got to look at the edges, the value, the chroma and the temperature when you're doing the details and the subtleties at the end. And it's just a matter of going around all these different areas, just adjusting here and there. Like I mentioned earlier, just squinting your eyes to see the values, open your eyes to see the colour, and then just change things up and try and get the overall balance. Because my aspiration is when somebody looks at my work, they don't see the detail, they see like fresh air and the energy of the subject, and then they go and have a look around. So that's what my aspiration is. So when I'm doing these final details, just making sure that everything is very subtle and not standing out too in just one area. Now with the beak here, it just needed to be a little bit more sort of purpley colour in places, a bit more desaturated because it's in shadow, but there's a little bit of warmness on the top of the beak there as well. So it needed to be smoothed out and a bit of detail put in, sharper areas here and there, just to make sure that both of the heads have got that sort of feeling and a connection together, but also I'm just getting those details more correct in those areas. The rest of the areas are more of a suggestion, but here I'm just adding that little bit more detail because this is quite sharp areas, you need something like a colour shaper just to soften things rather than using a cotton bud, which would be too big and it'll smudge areas around it. What I tend to do is look in the mirror a lot as well, the reflection of it, just to see how it looks from a different angle, and that brings out sort of areas that needs more work. Thank you so much for watching the video right till the end, really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It would mean so much to me, as this would help the channel to grow. Been a real fascinating one to do, with all the water, reflections, the connection the swans have got together, the energy and the light and, well, the cold and warm colours has been a real treat to do. If there's any questions at all, please leave a message in the comment section below this video and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. In the meantime, if you'd like to see any more of my work, please check out this video here. Take care, bye.